Cheers everyone, welcome back to Grandma's Handbag. It's time for the top 100. Thank you for joining us. I'm a bit nervous here, excited and nervous. I think we should just jump straight into this. Yeah, look, why am I excited? Because I get to show a bunch of records that I've held dear, asked them to stand up for themselves in all the favourite records I have and see what shakes out. So to get them out, I can't wait. But I'm also nervous because I feel like it's my one chance to nail it, to nail down what I want to say. And you know, you never have the words you want to say, I think, to say it perfectly. To do the album justice, I guess, is what I really want to do. So I'm going to give it my best shot. I don't have the gift of the gab, like some of the folks in the VC. I've scripted, because I need to get these and get them right, but can't wait anyway. Okay, Grandma's little helper is in, ready to go. Got some Michael Hedges Aerial Boundaries on, and it is time to jump in. Okay, number 100. This album's a homecoming for me. It's after enduring the late 90s, alternative, new metal, contemporary music sort of stuff, and while my head was mainly delving back into music that was anything but, really, you know, the history of contemporary popular music of the second half of the 20th century. I was in the UK when this album and the Strokes' debut album were released, and it felt like suddenly the tide was turning. Suddenly there was some music that made sense. Here was this band who'd done their apprenticeship in popular music, and they were appearing just as I was doing mine. They kicked the door open to contemporary music for me in a big way. The White Stripes, White Blood Cells. This album had freshness, rawness, sincerity. It's all in there, warts and all, you know. Stripped back, no bass. That was a big thing at the time. No bass on a White Stripes album. It brought garage rock back. You know, I'd been listening to Nuggets for a year to 2 years. And it all made sense suddenly. It reinvigorated the old folk blues stuff. You know, the sort of things you hear like on Hotel Yorba on here. You know, it also throws in some first album Dylan into the mix. You know, that really raw, keening folk and folk blues sort of stuff. So many simple, great tunes, you know. White Stripes might have done better albums after this, or even before to some folks. But for this one, it's still got all the rough edges that I love. And I thought, you know, it's a great way for me to kick this musical journey off, just as they did for me back in 2001. So, White Blood Cells at number 100. Alright, there's going to be a few CDs in here, because I haven't got the complete stuff on vinyl. So, let's go. 99. The Upsetters, Super 8, from 1976. This one is just warm, murky, soulful, dub-inflected reggae. It's just sort of right on the tip of both of those. And it's got just the right, when I say right, not too heavy, not too light, production touches from Lee Scratch Perry. And it's infused with his cheeky humour, you know, not too much of the humour. And, you know, just right again. Croaking Lizard takes on the Chase the Devil rhythm. There's beautiful, soulful horns that just float throughout, over the top of a lot of these sort of slightly heavier rhythms. I don't know, it's such a wonderful textural contrast. Tracks like Black Vest and Curly Dub. Fantastic rhythms, and the recording of the rhythms, the sounds of them. The drums sound like tubs in the best possible way though. Brilliant horn arrangements, just can't get enough of them. For me, it's Scratch Perry in the pocket. I don't have a lot invested in this album emotionally, but it's a very, very happy and summery album for me. It's all about the feel and the mood. This one is also a big influence on a couple of other dub and reggae albums that will end up in this top 100. But look, brilliant stuff. Zion's Blood, Black Vest, Croaking Lizard, Dub Along. Plenty of great tracks on there. Super 8, The Upsetters, number 99. 98 is Loop, A Gilded Eternity from 1990. This one, dark, droning, neo-psych. Yeah, it's space rock, neo-psych, indie from the UK. Circular riffs, jarring rhythms galore. Basically, the band said they wanted to emulate the sound of a Bad Trip, and I think they nailed it here. It's heavy, minimal, grinding stuff. The band split after this, and Robert Hampson, the main guy, didn't touch another guitar for 20 years. This was kind of his final guitar statement for a long time, and he took up synth instead. I love this album. It's music you get to really trance out to, you know, just get lost in the repetition, the brutality of the repetition. It's art rock. It's a really nihilistic kind of art rock statement. But at the same time, this album just draws me in every time, and I want to put a little bit of a needle or a CD drop in there so you can get a taste of this. Alright, number 97, we have Alopecia by Y. This is a really hard to describe album. I do know that Diana Digging in the Crate rates it very, very highly, and I can totally see why. This one, well, best way to put it, it's a quarter life crisis, or a third life crisis. The sound of a mind eating itself, which is then soundtracked by a hip-hop indie rock mashup. Think a Jewish rapping Jarvis Cocker with drony Beach Boys backing vocals and that indie rock hip-hop sort of background. I don't know, you can hear those influences separately, but they all come into something pretty unique. The lyrics are intense on this, really jaw-dropping, brutally honest stuff. And they really get into the minutiae of life, just like a momentary thought that plays out into lyrics. Crazy stuff. There's hooks aplenty throughout the album as well that doesn't make it feel anything like a chore, you know what I mean? It still draws you in with very pop nous, but at the same time being very much its own thing. It comes off a lot like a bedroom recording, but I actually got to see Y do this live, and boy, did they pull it off. They did it all no sweat. So yeah, I'm going to give you a taste of the Hollows, just for a bit of the stew of everything that turns up in here.
In Berlin I saw two men fuck in a dark corner of a basketball court. Just a slight jingle of pocket change pulsing. In the tourist bar I lost 50 euros to a guy with the walnut shells and the marble. It really pissed me off, so ooh, I thought I'd go back to get my money, but all my homies for me. Oh no, those gypsies probably got knives.
96. And we've got Fairport Convention, Legion Leaf. Great British folk rock. I first heard this about 16 or 17 years ago, and it never really gelled until recently, you know, the last 4 or 5 years, I'd probably say. It's interesting, over time, this 100 list of mine definitely changes. This one is a newer entry, believe it or not. So yeah, it does change over time. At the time, I was first time I heard it, too involved in singer-songwriters and things like Nick Drake to really hear the interplay and things that were going on in here. But since then, I've kind of really locked in the crystalline voice of Sandy Denny. Wonderful stuff. There's a real gusto of youth plugging back into their own folk traditions. You can really hear Richard Thompson starting to leap off the page on this one. And yet at the same time, you've got the introduction of Dave Swarbrick on violin and fiddle there. And he's kind of really steering the youngsters with his own bit of, knowledge of the traditions and that. So you can hear them, quite literally on Matty Groves, the second half of it. Thompson and Swarbrick dueling with each other on electric guitar and fiddle. Absolutely riveting stuff there. But then you've got other songs, Come All Ye, Renadine. Look, the first half of this album is absolutely peerless to me. The medley at the end of folk standards, great stuff as well. Legion Leaf, just a real grower for me. Alright, number 95. We have the one and only album by Scottish band V-Twin called The Blues is a Minefield. So the title says it all on this one. The Blues is a Minefield. To me, I get a lot of swampy jazz via Dr. John Tom Waits, but it's still firmly, electro rock fusion. I know that's going to sound horrible, and it really is much better than it sounds there. Electro blues with a fair whack of the Primal Scream and Rolling Stones in there as well, especially in the vocals, the bluesy licks. And there's a couple of tracks with Bill Wells on trumpet. Outstanding stuff. Really, really good. This is a little Scottish band. They never made any fuss, and just charting their progression through EPs to this album, just kept getting better at what they did, and split right after this, their crowning achievement, moving along into other bands like Bell and Sebastian and the likes. But this album just keeps on drawing me in, and I tend to hear something new to focus on each time I listen, while at the same time marvelling that they pulled it off, this kind of unholy mix, and got no real praise for it. It just sort of makes it into this top 100 on sheer playability, Great stuff. And I'll leave you with a little snippet of V-Twin, The Blues is a Minefield.
I give you one option, you can choose. I'm bad news in Amanda Marcos shoes. Well, I could dish it out, but I can't take it.
Number 94, Jim O'Rourke, Insignificance from 2001. Is that the right way, or is that the right way? It's the same, isn't it? Yeah, okay. Very clever music, but I don't mean that to be like in an elitist sense. It's just really, really well done. Funny, punny, knowing lyrics in there. The music swings away from orchestral chamber folk to double drumming, almost Zepp-style riffage, and often in the same song as well, but it feels completely natural. I don't know how they do it. Jim O'Rourke, you'd know from working with Wilco, and in fact Jeff Tweedy and Glenn Cocchi from Wilco turn up on this album on quite a few songs. Jim O'Rourke also of Sonic Youth, and a whole avant-garde solo career. This is fairly straight down the line for O'Rourke solo stuff, but the opener here is completely infectious, and I want to leave you with a taste of that after this. It just throws all those folk, Zeppelin riffage, all of that, along with numerous false endings, woo-woos, horns. It's got everything. all in about 5 minutes. Crazy stuff. There's softer country folk numbers, and then there's the straight ahead rock and roll of Therefore I Am. It's got it all for me. Just a great, great album. Number 93, Mercury Rev, Your Self-Esteem. This album has been with me on a long ride now. I first got into Mercury Rev with Deserters songs, went back and really, really found what I liked. Is this their best album to me? I guess you're going to have to wait and see. But what an incredible thing. There's a furious bandwidth war going on right in the mid-bandwidth, this really busy, thick sound. A very busy mix, but still sounds so great, this album. Dave Fridman recording it. He also worked on quite a lot of Flaming Lips albums before going on to more production acclaim in the 2000s. This has got a lot of acid going through it. It's there's a real questing element in there, in the band trying to mix their punk rock roots of the 80s with psych, free jazz skronk, and they're often sort of stuffing them all into their own very warped version of what a pop song should be. One of the only bands I can think of that's got a flautist surfing over twin distorted guitars. Makes for a very, very unique sound. The anarchy and the glee in this album, for me, just says a lot about the possibility of music, you know. Being the band's first album and almost a kind of an art and music project, you just get that feel that they're playing for enjoyment, even though it's some heavy, heavy stuff. The band got a lot more serious after this, and even more deranged than the closing track, Very Sleepy Rivers. But that was to be their undoing, and then their doing later on with Deserter songs. But this album, what a testament. Just a really, really good album. 1991, Mercury Rev. Okay, number 292 from 2002. Another CD. And I'll have to take this out of the slick. I hope you can see that there. Corner Shop, Hand Cream for a Generation. This album is just a real good, feel-good album for me. There was a year or two there where, you know, every summer we'd go to the beach, a carload of friends and things, and if I had the stereo, there's a good chance that this album will be on there. It plays a bit like a mixtape mixed with a music review, you know. Disco's in there, soul, club bangers, reggae, and psych, drone psych stuff, and it's all refracted through that London 90s indie rock prism. They're mostly unfairly remembered for Brimful of Asher, I think, but this album delivers to me on everything that they sort of hinted at on Brimful of Asher and the album it came off. Noel Gallagher, for my mind, his best work, this is a bit contentious, his best work ever, should I say ever? Alright. To me, his best work is actually as a guest on the 14-minute track here, Spectral Mornings. It's a monster 60s psych and sitar drone track with Punjabi vocals. What it basically does is takes a Chemical Brothers Setting Sun and Tomorrow Never Knows and shoots it into orbit. Incredible track. So many great songs on here. Lessons Learned from Rocky 1 to Rocky 3. People Power in the Disco Hour. Staging the Plaguing. Just a great, great album. If you ever find it, and it may be cheap, certainly on CD and maybe even on record. I don't know, I've never picked one up. Do yourself a favour, have a listen. I think it's fantastic and criminally underrated. Very, very fond of that album. Alright, number 91. We have Wilco, Summer Teeth. I love that title, Summer Teeth and Summer Not. Anyway, I remember almost buying, being there about the time it was released, and if I had, that album could very well be in the top 10 slot, in the top 100. But Summer Teeth is where I started with Wilco, and it's the one that I still return to for me. It was touted as their Beatles album at the time, which sounds quite odd. Maybe because it was less alt-country, well-written love songs, things, lush pop songcraft. There's a definite pop edge to this album. Perhaps there because I also think, a really healthy Lennon-McCartney competitiveness between Jeff Tweedy and Jay Farrar. Almost like they were a foil for each other, each one bringing the best out and tempering the excesses a little bit. Something I think that's been missing for Tweedy a fraction since Yankee Hotel Foxtrot. But that is what it is. There's many people love many different phases of Wilco, and this is the one I really go for. But the lyrics on here, frequently brilliant stuff. She's a jar, shot in the arm. You know, so many versions on there. Like lines like the ashtray says, "We've been up all night." Brilliant. Just brilliant stuff. There's also a real ache in a lot of these songs. There's some darkness and pain that's sort of woven right into the fabric. And that's, to me, what makes it, just something I keep returning to. And a definite top 100 album for me. 91. Cheers, everyone. That's the first one done and dusted. Look, I'd love to know what you think. If you guys have got some of these albums, let me know in the comments whether they rate there for you, or there's other albums that the band do better. I'd love to hear from you and talk a little more about it. So that's the first cab off the rank. Don't know when the next one's going to be, but I'm going to try and punch them out in a fairly regular fashion. So thank you for joining in, everyone. I'll talk to you all pretty soon. Cheers. Bye-bye.